Ladies and gentlemen, Paul Fletcher.
Hi. Yeah, it was more than 10 years ago. Okay, I was asked here to talk about BIM collaboration and integration. So, what do we mean by that? Sorry about this. This is one of the technological issues of writing a presentation on a different version of PowerPoint. So, apologies for fonts that don't work. It's one of the issues of having standards, I suppose. What I wanted to do, where's my pointer thingy, is really just to hear, is the bit that I think we're all ultimately moving towards, is this integrated service offer. And this is a diagram that I put together with Richard Saxon, another person who's been looking at this thing in a wider sense for some time, just sort of say, you know, BIM is part of, but it is not the centre. And it is not the thing that's going to make the changes. It is part of what we need to be looking at. Overlaying, if you like, that diagram are three vital aspects that control the success or otherwise this whole thing. And they are technology, which we will hear a great deal about, and so often BIM is all seen about technology. There's a lot of stuff about process, and we need to be looking at processes and how we do stuff. But the bit, I suppose, that excites me most is culture of how we do things. So looking again, if you like, at how that might sit together. If we do, for this instance, put BIM in the middle and say, what part is that within this integrated service offer? It is mixed together with all these aspects of culture, process, and technology. And I would argue that, you know, the technology bit is very much in the arena of tools and standards, and it's an area where we can find integration, where we can bring information into an integrated form. But behaviours and attitudes are the bit that trigger collaboration, that make that happen. And it's the synergy between the two of those that is going to give us the results we want. I won't be the first person to say this today, and I certainly know there's going to be a lot of this later on. I know it's MBS's real tag, that the bit that really matters is information. And actually, I, along with a number of other people here, really don't like BIM as an acronym. I think it's rather awful, and I think it confuses the matter. So the bit I want to talk about is information, but attitude and behaviour with that information and what we tend to do with it. So let's look at information flow. We've heard something about that from others, and simplifying something, we'll call it the plan of work or whatever, but we have this general simplified concept that we have, you know, a stage of preparation, of design, pre-construction, construction, and then eventually use. There is a deliberate gap here. I think we all know that that gap exists at the moment, and we have this thrust of information towards that. Thing is, we tend to do it in compartmentalized, silo-based approaches of pushing information or demanding information at each stage. So it kind of, you know, again, tidily chugs along, but it doesn't actually look like that. It looks more like that. We get so many people involved, and we go, done my bit, you have it, you do it, and if you don't do that right, not my fault, because I've done my bit, I've done really well in Iraq. So we have a whole thing of just pushing information or demanding. We have contractors now that say, you'll give us your information in this way because it suits us. So it's adversarial. We know it is. We try and pretend otherwise, but it still is. So small surprise that people saying, we need to integrate. We come along with information technologies, BIM or BIM-MM, Building Information Modelling and Management, as a nirvana for this. We say, let's look at these information flows. And actually what we can do with structures is line up the information. And actually we're quite good at that now. And this is, let's flick to the next one. This is kind of what COBE does to a certain extent. I can't remember exactly what that stands for. But it is all about, well, I can't, it's construction, I don't know, it's an acronym. But it's all about, basically, it's about having this information lined up. That's what COBE is about. It's just ordering information. So at the point of use, you have a good set of information. It's fine. It's good. It's valid. And we see different things happening, again, at design, construction, and use and ways of aligning information. However, I'll put to you that, and hopefully this might be a bit of breath air, and it's a bit contentious, but is information becoming more important than its purpose? We're getting very good at lining this up. You know, and everybody says, oh, COBE, we're going to have better buildings. Are we? Because we've got information all lined up? Is that all buildings are about? Is that all what architecture, design, engineering? You know, I think we need to look a bit somewhere else. So being a bit contentious, I have a tendency to be this, but are we collaborating so as to manage information outputs, what we do, but not the outcomes, not what that information is there to provide or serve or do? You know, do we really, you know, and this is where the excitement is. So again, I would argue that the culture that we have, that is still perpetuated with BIM unless we change our cultures, because BIM doesn't change the cultures. It gives us an opportunity to, but it doesn't. But I would say it negates against curiosity. Curiosity is one of the best things we have. By curiosity, what I mean is not going to say, Richard here and saying, right, done my bit, you go and do that. It's kind of, Richard, I've got a problem here. I think you can help. And in fact, if we bring that person, that person, that person, that is what it's about. I think demand and push also, because it loses that curiosity, it stifles creativity. We spend its time. Ultimately, it erodes innovation. We heard something about innovation earlier in that opportunity, but you know, pushing information around at each other erodes that innovation, and ultimately is anti-teamwork. It was all of this that caused me to start teamwork in the first instance. So, the challenge though out there says we'll have to do more for less, whether that's less fee or whatever. We've heard that, we have to do that. I think, you know, what we know is it sits in that we have to have buildings that cost less, but that they use much less carbon. I'm not going to say this is 20% less, and actually if you talk to some of the people claiming that, they don't think it can be that or whatever. I'm not saying this is zero or whatever, but they have to be less. So I would say to get to that point, we need innovation and teamwork, the delivery of low-cost, low-carbon solutions. That's the only way we are going to achieve this, is through innovation and doing it collectively. So, also, if you want another starker reality, is, and this was an Australian study, demand and push culture, at least 40% of the effort is wasted on unnecessary. This is architects typically. 40% of your effort is completely wasted. Utterly wasted, because you're creating information that serves no useful purpose. Now, I'm an architect as well, and I'm saying that, you know, and you're ploughing your efforts in the wrong place so often. So a new attitude and behaviour, we'll look at that. Again, let's look at information flow. But I would urge, first of all, that information needs to flow the other way. There's no point doing BIM unless you actually know what it is you're doing it for. Yeah? That is where the BIM information flow starts, with a defined outcome. What is happening in use? And that become the basis and purpose, BIM or any other kind of information flow. And what we'll find will happen is that gap will start to close, because everything that happens in delivery of the environment for use is driven by what that actual use is. So, you know, as architects, as designers, as constructors, as engineers, I'd urge us all to be more interested in people in buildings than buildings per se. Buildings are part of the process. I don't want to see a synergy between design and construction. They're one and the same thing. It's one problem to be solved. That's, you know, a way we need to think. So looking now at that information draw, if you like, or pull as opposed to push, what we can start to do is to pull information and skill into the process. So rather than bombarding each other with information packets or whatever, is to create an environment where we all come together to populate an ever-increasing lean, purposeful information flow that goes through, that takes us successfully into use, where we don't drop the ball, where we actually come together and we use what time we've got to solve problems, not to create pools and packets of information and all the rest of it. So for me, where this gets exciting, and we've seen some lovely examples, I think, all there, is where BIM becomes a tool of virtual prototyping. This is something that I was talking about in the days of teamwork, and I still talk about today, is the excitement that we can use this information technology to get the solutions right before we build them. And that is vital and critical. And that's where it starts to shift. That's where it's a game changer. Two things I want to try and sort of give to you a little there is we need to move towards a systems thinking approach, where we understand that all of this is a whole and we're all playing parts of that. We don't get that as an industry generally. We do not tend to have a systems-based approach. That's one thing we need to learn how to do, to embrace. We need to support design thinking as well, more than just design doing, but actually using design to solve gnarly problems, not just to make buildings that we think are rather elegant or lovely or whichever, but actually to solve the issues of society, of people in buildings. So output always should be in support of outcome. And I'm going to keep this fairly quick. I haven't got a couple more now because we have time for the panel. So I'll just throw some ideas. So collaboration and integration in the arena of BIM. Well, first of all, understand outcome before you output. Today, with the technology we've got, you can make as much bloody information as you want. The moment we electrified this process, we had the ability to create more information quicker than we knew what to do with it. You know, so think about your data, be efficient with it, and use the information tools to leverage your skills with others. Develop a building as a system. This is another thing that I think the link between what I'm phrasing as building scientists now and the work I'm doing with CIBSE and others is the synergy between architect and engineer is where the low carbon answer exists. That is where it is a thing of science. That's where it exists. So think of a whole building as a system right from the very start. Innovation through curiosity. Don't give something to someone else to say, right, I've done my bit, you do it now. Have the other way. Invite them around. It's the campfire. It's to do that. It's to learn together. It's to discover things together. Teamwork enabled by cooperation, more necessary than collaboration. We have a habit of grabbing onto words in this English, but collaboration, actually, you collaborate to overturn a government. That might be a good thing at the moment. I don't know. But that is one of the things you do. You collaborate. It's actually kind of a sinister act in some respects. Cooperation is a wholly different. It is coming together for mutual benefit. And I would say, back to it, information is the fuel, the glue, the currency of all of this. But just think about what you're doing with the information and its purpose and how you're using that to do what you do better with your colleagues. So last slide, BIM, acronym, a subset of ICT. We know what ICT is, Information Communication Technologies. I will throw to you a new acronym and say, actually, if we were to start to think about integrated cooperative teamwork, then all of this would just make sense. We wouldn't be worried about it anymore. It would just be commonplace in how we do it. So that is the point I want to put to you. And thank you. I don't know how I'm in time. I'm probably quick. There we go.